here I am, and Mihaela sent me the PDF of the book many months ago, so I'm actually only today holding the book, and I must say it's beautiful and elegant, like everything Mihaela and Luminita with the cover have been doing, what, 9 times now? And obviously there will be another 10 book. And what can I say? I'm really delighted in looking at the book and the beautiful pages and the production of it. I admired it. And I'm thinking 9 books, Mihaela and Sue Crawford and Luminita, they've all worked hard on these books. I have them all because Mihaela sends them to me. So I do have them all, I must confess. And you know what? I asked Mihaela, what do you want me to say? I'm following Luke Carmen, wanting to be launching the book. What am I doing there with my role, right? So just be here and, I don't know, talk Romanian, well, English with a Romanian accent, so, for the flavour. So the real launch was by Luke. I'm doing the flavour bit. So, you know what? I'm looking at this book and I'm thinking, it's possible. We are at the other end of the world. We are all, several continents away from our families. Like most of us Romanians would still have families back home. It's interesting how these days you can be here and there at the same time. I think you are you going to send the videos back home, or how are you doing this? Oh, they're live. Okay, hello. Hi. I haven't been to Romania, in 11 years, so hello. You know what? My favourite artwork was really just the first one by Mihaela. If you look at it on page 6, it's so pretty, and it's called Dreaming of Spring, and it actually, she says she likes to bring joy to people. Like, it does bring you joy when you look at it, and I was expecting a book, you know, that will have some joy and all the seasons and everything, and there is some joy, but there's everything in between. So many feelings, and I've read it. I promise I read everything. I'm telling you that I really have read the book, and I am going to mention a few writers here. You know, Luke has already spoken about the English authors. So I'm only going to mention some of them in passing. When I started reading the Romanian authors, as Mihaela instructed, she's the boss, you know. So I have been instructed to do the Romanian ones. All right, so the guest author is Daniela Andronache, and she writes a contemplative nature poetry. And I wish I could translate all of this, but I can't translate everything for you in 10 minutes. So I'll only give you snippets here and there of what, you know, like I'll cherry pick a little bit. There are 40 authors, and really, it's a beautiful collection. Quite eclectic, I must say, because of the diversity. So not only is there, an Australian contingent, a Romanian contingent, and then, you know, those of us who live between two cultures, the diaspora writers. So there's a lot going on in this collection, and there's something for everybody. I'm thinking of it that way. What I saw in Marius Kedaru's poem that I read, you know, that's one of the very first at the beginning. I really like the line which says the moon looks like dragging behind her a few stars. Well, that's so pretty, you know. It says luna pare că târăște după ea câteva stele. That's nice. And then there's somebody following him, Jane Downing, and for some reason she also has something to do with the moon, you know, so she looks at it from the other hemisphere, and she says, a half moon hangs around still smooth as a gorilla's head. And I thought, oh, that's Australian, like it's like a gorilla's head. So here we are, from Romania to Australia in like 2 seconds flat. So Victoria Petrescu, we found, again, the moon. I don't know, but poets have something to do with this moon. The moon was growing over them. She's talking about neighbours. She grew up in, I assume it's Bucharest, I don't know, it's a block of flats, and she talks about her neighbours, and she says, well, I'm not going to translate everything for you. It says, ziua era tot mai scurtă, dar strălucea aurie, luna creștea peste ei pătrară, vremea trecea cu toate ale ei, vara, iarna, primăvara, puțin cam aiurea. So all of the seasons are just going over her and her neighbours, and she calls it a little bit odd. I love the word, to see the word aiurea in poetry, especially that it's pretty hard to translate into English. Like, it means elsewhere, it means overseas, it means foolish, it means ridiculous. So I thought, I love the word aiurea. I haven't heard it in many years, so there you go. I'm supposed to talk mainly about the Romanian authors and writing, but on my way to the next Romanian writer, I'd just like to stop for a second and warmly recommend that people read Norm Fairbairn's poem At Bass Point. I thought that was really interesting. And the poet's eye captures fine details and recreates perfectly in words concrete imagery, elevating it from the everyday into poetry. Like, I was really impressed by that poem. So one of my favorites in the collection. And I wish someone would translate into English Ivona Boitan's short story, Check-in Luggage. So people could feel the intensity of this story of the one left behind. I don't know if people have already read the collection. I'm not sure how you could do this. Just talk to Mihaela and ask her to translate it for you. It's really worth it. I was very impressed. Okay, so maybe you could ask Mihaela to translate some more, you know, the poem by Ioana PETRESCU, where people learn what sadness is all about. And like I said, it's everything, this collection is everything between joy and sadness. And it's interesting. Or maybe, Mihaela, hint, this is a very discreet hint. Maybe someone could translate the poem by Victoria Milescu, poems by Victoria Milescu and Liana Nicolae. There's intense imagery there. Again, I can't just sort of skip, you know, through stuff. I had to read the English ones as well, and I was so impressed by a poem by Jason Gray. He just has one poem here, but boy, is it well written, and I thought the words and images just flow. It's so cool. Then there's some interesting travel writing by Daniela Guman, and it's a very good example of creative non-fiction. I could teach creative non-fiction on that little piece. It really is very interesting and, you know, very well written. I must admit, I haven't read a lot of contemporary prose lately. I was pretty sick and then I retired, and this is probably my first public appearance after many years of just, I was really unwell. But I haven't read a lot of contemporary prose lately, and I must say that the excerpt from the novel The Questions of the Sphinx by Stefan Dumitriu really surprised me. It was just like reading a classical author for an exam when I was at uni about 100 years ago. He's probably well known in Romania, and if he's not, he really will be or should be. It's a very serious topic, And yet there are slivers of humour that lighten up an otherwise rather dark story with social, psychological and religious connotations. So how do you rewrite Cain and Abel into the everyday? It's striking. And of course I love Japanese inspired poetry any time, so Marie Dustman's is really nice and minimalistic and yet deep and evocative, but all, I don't know, I think haiku and Japanese poetry is that, isn't it? Minimalistic, deep and evocative. I found Luminica Poternice, she has a very interesting nostalgic prose, and I smiled at the memory of the doilies with pansies. Panseluțele de târnileurile apretate ale doamnei Stoica. Well, you know what? They were present in each and every house at the time, I imagine. Even I have some doilies at home. Well, I don't think there's pansies, but there are some flowers. So I can't imagine there was a home at the time in the whole of Romania without doilies with pansies. So that put a smile on my face. Delicate and sensitive poetry and prose by Amanda Filipina, nostalgic writing by Ioana PETRESCU, nice to be reminded by Constantin Guman of Apollinaire and Shakespeare, and I thought, yeah, well, take that new internet age with your short attention span. Would anyone read Apollinaire and Shakespeare these days? If they do, it's like snippets of Shakespeare. It has to be brought into the present, and everybody needs to be at the supermarket and things like that. So I kid you not, I saw in England, what was it? Oops, what am I doing? Destroying the environment. What else would the Romanian do? I must say, I saw this play. What was it? The Merry Wives of Windsor. I saw it in England, and it was in beautiful Shakespeare's Stratford-upon-Avon, and it started with all these women under those, what are they called, at the hairdresser. And yeah, and they were all chatting with each other, and I thought, what would Shakespeare think? Maybe he'd like it. He might like it. Okay. Caryopia Togala reminds us of the white winters when it snows, jellyfish glowing in the dark. How pretty is that? I never thought of snowflakes as jellyfish glowing in the dark. That's so pretty. Anyway, I know I need to focus on the Romanian authors. However, on reading the book, I couldn't just skip. And I found that the English writing is very diverse, profound, and rewarding. There's a story by Augusta Supple, I hope I'm saying it right, Francis Bechtel, and this story moves with such ease through time and generations, and then it reaches the fairly non-conformist but very satisfying here and now, so I quite like that. The collection moves swiftly between seasons, as expected from the title of the collection, which boss Mihaela sort of came up with, I understand. Seasons? Who came up with
Yes, but it's by influence from Luminica Șerbănescu's painting. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a collaboration of big minds that think alike. Okay, so then I couldn't help noticing how many Romanian writers, including Mihaela Măcelaru, focused on the winter of the Northern Hemisphere. Yeah, well, living in Australia, you forget about all that snow and ice and, it's interesting, you know? It's like going back home for, what, the time you're reading the poem. It's nice. There are many Australian authors and many Romanian authors and a few writers of the Romanian diaspora, Mihaela, Cristescu, and myself included. So, you know, living and writing between two cultures can be very rewarding. We can see that even in the poetry of Anișoara Laura Mustesiu. And then I must say that, I think I said it before, beautiful. The haiku is one of my favorite forms of writing, so I'm a bit biased when reading the haiku by Florin Golban. He says, Easter morning from the blooming cherry tree, the blackbird's song. So, isn't that Easter morning from the blooming cherry tree, the blackbird's song? It's very nice, in my opinion. It's very Japanese. I don't know how he does that. He probably visited or he's writing a lot about it. Someone called Benona Ioana PETRESCU tells us in his poetry that there are 5 seasons rather than 4 seasons of man and nature. And then I found the story of the 2 sisters with Mariana Robbins really interesting. It's a tale of modern times where people migrated, families live several continents apart. And then there's another piece of creative nonfiction that caught my eye in this book by George Dimitriou, his account of a trip in the forest. It's really enjoyable going on that visual trip. Mihaela, our editor and friend, ends the collection and thus closes one possible circle of seasons. She says, before spring comes, sounds will fade through silence. Well, I think it's not a lot of a silence because you're going to start very soon working on the next volume. So there's silence for now, but there will be another volume, as I'm told, and it will probably bring together many more writers. And it's such a beautiful, and as our painter, Romanian Șerbenescu, would say, joyous occasion to see people, from so many cultures and so different backgrounds working and understanding each other and what they're writing. It feels good actually in a world that kind of isn't all that friendly. So thanks are in order to Mihaela, to Sue Crawford, to Carol Amos and their team, and I hope you all have this beautiful volume to take home. And what can I say? Well, I think Luke declared it launched. Did you? And if he didn't, I must declare it launched. See, I mean, it's not perfect. So, this is the beautiful book that I hope you will all read and enjoy. And I am not envious, because I can't be envious, but I would love to sort of be part of your group and live in Sydney, but I also love Adelaide. So, so I'll go home with my volume. Thanks very much for inviting me.